All right, let's move into our next section, bookkeeping, common templates. I introduced you to one template already, and that was the income statement template. These others are additional templates that can be used to help you classify the transaction. So remember, one of the major tasks or significant tasks of an accountant is to classify the transaction. Essentially, record the transaction and then determine which accounts, whether asset account, liability account, revenue or expense account, is going to be impacted by the transaction. Once they do that, then they can put the numbers in the appropriate places, and then that will generate the reports at the end of the month or end of the quarter. So our first template is called the chart of accounts. Now, this is a very, very important template. What it does is sets the stage for all accounting that will take place within the business. Literally what you're doing is you're trying to determine which accounts are going to be relevant to your business. So assets, liabilities, revenues, expenses. So I'm going to use expenses as an example because that'll be the easiest to understand. As I mentioned before, depending on your business type, whether you're a service company or a retailer or a manufacturer, if you're a manufacturer in particular, you're going to have a lot more expense categories. So the chart of account will allow me to list out and define what those expenses are and actually write them in a place and assign a number to them. So let's say labor. I'll assign a number of 401 to labor. And the next one could be insurance costs. I'm going to assign the number 403 to that. So what it means is that I'm trying to identify the expenses and that any expense that's related to that will be assigned the same number. So that at the end of the month, when I press the button on the computer will know if it's related to labor, it should have a number of 401 preceding it, and it will then consolidate all of those numbers into one number, so then I know what my total labor costs are. Okay? So it's just a way of flagging the expenses and being able to identify which bucket I should put those expenses into. Well, the chart of account also does that for the other classification. For the assets, I can separate my assets, give them all different numbers. Anything I do with that asset in the future, I will give it that same number and it will relate it to that asset. Same thing with the liabilities. If I go to a particular bank and I secure a loan, in the future, if I get another loan from that same bank, I will assign that same identifying number to it so that it will then consolidate all the loans into one, so I know my total obligation to that bank. So the chart of accounts is where you start off first. We sit down together, the owner and the business and the bookkeeper, and we have a discussion about what we believe are going to be the principal accounts for tracking all of our information. Once we do that, as transactions occur, I will then know where to put the numbers and which buckets to put them into appropriately. If I'm using a service like QuickBooks, this is the starting point. You can't set up your QuickBooks unless you set up the chart of accounts. You have to know what your expenses are going to be that you're going to be tracking. You're going to have to assign an identifying number to each expense so that in the future, as you bring in more data, if it's related to that expense, you'll know which number to assign to it, and the computer will then know how to consolidate the information at the end when you ask for a report. So this is called the chart of accounts. When you look at it, you'll see to the far left, it has your account number. That's when you give it a unique number for the item, for the account that you have. So if it's a asset account and we're looking at the business case, maybe it's the kitchen furniture, or kitchen equipment, I should say. I have a stove, I have a refrigerator, I have maybe countertops. I want all of them to be labeled or identified as kitchen equipment. So I give them all the same number. I give them the number of 500. So anytime I do anything related to 500, I'm going to make sure that it's known as kitchen equipment. So I have to give it a number or come up with a number. I have to attach it to an account. And then after that, I will fill out any additional information that will explain what this represents, what this item represents, so that anybody in the future will know exactly how to pick up the accounting responsibilities if I should change over accountants. So one leaves, another one comes in. They want to know how the books are set up. They're going to go to the chart of accounts first to see how you've set up your expenses, your revenues, and the other areas of the business. Next, we have a template for just tracking revenue. I've bracketed it for you. So what we'll look at is cash. This is called a cash book. Now the reason why we're looking at this one is because, remember, I could have a situation where I offer somebody credit. Well, that's going to be a separate template, separate tracking. This one is just tracking my cash sales. So someone comes through the door, they pay me cash, I record it. So this template is going to end up telling me, here's how much I've generated in revenues that were cash purchases. That's important information because at the end, when I'm preparing my final report at the end of the year, I want to be able to look at cash sales and also credit sales, because sometimes maybe someone makes a purchase in December, but they don't have to pay me until January. Well, I need to know that that money hasn't arrived yet. I've generated a revenue, but the money hasn't arrived in the bank yet, and I need to make some adjustments to my records so I don't overstate my revenues and then end up overstating my profitability. And then I'm shocked when I look at my bank account and I say, I'm missing money. What happened here? Well, I'm missing the money because I offer someone credit and they're not obligated to pay me until the next year. So I do have to make some adjustments to my records at the end of the year to account for that. To help me do that, I can use the cash book to keep track of all of my cash receipts, and then I'll have a separate book that's keeping track of my credit sales as well. I'll bring those two together to be able to see what my total revenues were at the end of the year. Booking expenses. So here, I want to keep track of all of my expenses, and this is a great template for doing that. So I have the date of payment. This is when I made the payment. The method of payment. Did I use cash or credit? Who did I pay it to? You always want to have a description of why this payment was being made. We probably also have another column in here, again, assigning that chart of account number so we know how to classify this expense. So at the end of the year, we know how much money we spend in each category. We also keep track of a running total of what we paid and also a running total of the total amount that we paid to that specific account, okay? So this is an expense template. So the template is just a way of capturing information. You just want to make sure you're capturing in such a way that you can do it in an orally fashion, so it helps you with accuracy, and it helps you also at the end when you're trying to summarize results. These templates, again, could show up in Excel if you want to, or you could be using a accounting software. At the end, by using the templates will help you with your accuracy. It'll help you in summarizing your information at the end. So then it will auto-generate for you if you're using accounting software, or your accountant, bookkeeper, can do it manually. Prepare your income statement for the end of the year, prepare your balance sheet for the end of the year, also prepare your cash flow statement for the end of the year. So that concludes a review of the templates that are used by bookkeepers. Remember, this is not an exhaustive list of templates. There's many templates out there. At the end of the day, what will happen is that your bookkeeper will select the template or develop their own template that's appropriate for your business in conjunction with you. That's something you should sit down with your bookkeeper so you understand how they're classifying your information. And then from there, you'll be able to work with them in the future seamlessly on your financial records. I hope that was helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this session. At the heart of this, we wanted to ask, why is bookkeeping essential? Because it's essential to small business success. It is essential to small business success. Why? It helps build the accounting skills needed by the founder or the owner in order to track your finances or your financial data, be able to interpret that data, and be able to use that data to help you make better and more informed business decisions as you move forward. In fact, the experts would say you need to observe, you need to record, you need to journal, and you need to analyze your financial results in order to draw meaningful conclusions. About what? About your financial history, about your financial health, about your future financial performance. The financial reports are necessary tools to help you do that because they help you see or give you visibility into your organization. You'll move from, I think we're doing okay, I hope we're doing okay, to I know we're doing well. Or I know we have some areas where we need to make improvement, and here's how we're going to do it. Because you can actually see the numbers and you start to understand how the numbers are trending so that you can move in the direction you need to sustain your business.
Thanks, Adam. Now that you have covered all the documents and information a business owner needs, here are some ways to store that information. You can scan and upload documents to cloud services such as Dropbox storage, or store them on an external drive, for example. Electronic files stored on your computer should also be backed up to a different storage device. You should back up your data weekly. It is always good to have 2 copies of all your information. Back to you, Adam.
So what were the learning objectives for this session? We reviewed the core accounting concepts that are going to be used by the bookkeeper. As a result, these are the same concepts that you need to become comfortable with. I recommend, if you have never taken accounting before, please take an accounting course at a local community college so you can at least learn the fundamentals. We examine a sample business case to better understand how your actions in starting up the business actually translates into transactions. And then we showed how those transactions can become accounting data, which ultimately flows into your accounting record. And then we highlighted a couple of templates, not all templates, but a couple of templates that can be used to gather information, to collect information that will be used, again, for decision making, but literally it's helping the bookkeeper keep the information in order. It helps you to be able to come in and look over the shoulder sometimes, see what they're doing and understanding how they're reaching the conclusions that they're reaching about your business performance. So those are the 3 objectives for today. I hope you enjoyed this session. And on behalf of the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council, we thank you for being here today, and please take advantage of any of the other workshops that we have prepared for you. Have a great day.